Creepy Rain.
I'm Danielle.
I'm Austin.
And we're going to be talking about Dead Silence and
The
The Boy. These are both creepy doll movies,
Dead Silence, we're going to give that 4 bloody arms. And The Boy, what do you think?
about 3, which I do not like myself. But
I love them much like
You
Chucky.
do?
It's
Ugh.
great.
I hate doll movies. They're scary.
They're great.
They're not great.
Well, it plays on an irrational fear once again.
Animated
Objects, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had that dream that our dolls came to life.
Yeah, I can remember when I was like 5, my American Girl doll, her head, I swear by it. I threw it away the next
Just
day.
like in Dead Silence.
Yes, definitely Dead Silence. A doll randomly appeared on this couple's porch, and they opened it, and it was a weird-looking doll, and his name was Billy.
Billy the doll.
And he came from this woman named Mary Shaw that later found out. And the doll ended up killing the wife.
Yeah, the husband went on a little run to get food, came
Chinese.
back.
And what was
Chinese.
interesting they did with the effects is right when he stepped into the house, the teapot went off, the music shut off, and it got completely quiet until he reached the room, and then he saw his wife without a mouth. And it was like,
But oddly enough, to kind of put into the spook factor, they had her calling his name and they had her talking.
even though
But-
she was dead.
Yeah, and had no tongue.
So it made him look like he was crazy to the police.
Which made the police investigate him when he tried to investigate the murder himself because the police weren't going to do it.
Yeah, so he ended up going back to his hometown, Ravenswood, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And he found out that Mary Shaw owned the doll and that she put on this show a long time ago. And this kid named Billy made fun of her and said that she wasn't, that he could see the lips moving because she was a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
And she ended up killing the boy. Or
Yeah, he went missing.
He went missing.
But it was pretty predictable that it was her that took him. Mary Shaw had an obsession with her dolls. She
Yeah,
had
there was
hundreds
walls
of
and walls of dolls in the movie. It ended up that the doll was making the things happen. So the husband that the wife died, he went on the trip, and in the trip he brought the doll along with him, and he ended up burying it, and it came back into his hotel room after he buried it.
When Mary Shaw died, she actually had all of her dolls buried with her, and all of the dolls were unburied, and it came to be that Mary Shaw's soul was controlling the dolls.
Yes.
That all of the dolls were doing the killing, and if you scream, the legend says that Mary Shaw will cut off your tongue. And if you don't scream, you can fight her off, but most of the time when you see a crazy doll or a crazy ghost coming out of you, you're going to
usually
scream.
Yeah. So he ended up going to his father's house that was in that town. And
First time meeting his stepmother.
Yeah, first time meeting his stepmother. And throughout the movie, we think the father is alive.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the movie, we find out that the perfect doll was actually the stepmom, and the stepmom was the daughter of Mary Shaw. So she ended up making the father into a doll. So all we saw was what she wanted us to see and what she was controlling.
Yeah, definitely. And Mary Shaw was actually created into a doll when she was buried.
Yes.
That was one of her requests. He and the cop actually come up with an alliance because the cop follows him down all the way back to his hometown, and he keeps using him as a suspect, and he actually thinks that the doll has something to do with the murder, but like not that the doll murdered him.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guy and the cop make an alliance, and they go and find Mary Shaw's doll cave, would you call it?
Yeah, they see all the dolls, like I said earlier, lined along the wall, and you can see like the names of the dolls, and it's really creepy.
And the cop finally starts to agree that maybe the dolls have something to do, and Mary Shaw's phone has something to do with the killing.
And we also see that Mary Shaw is a big impact when he goes to the funeral home, and the wife of the old man was completely scared of Mary Shaw. Like, she was terrified, and the old man even said that we don't say Mary Shaw in this town. Like, you're not even allowed to say her name.
The whole town knew of the curse, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And with the boy, we see that this old couple, their son was 8 years old. He was 8 years old, and he was playing with a neighborhood little girl. And Brahms came back from the woods, but the little girl didn't. And they found out that Brahms killed her. So what the old women or the old couple did was they, he supposedly died in a fire, and the doll was made up that looked just like him, like all the features, and it was creepily looked just like his picture.
Just like it.
Yeah, it was really creepy. And Greta came in looking for a nannying job. She was escaping her abusive boyfriend, and she came out in the middle of nowhere, and she was the nanny for Brahms.
Wonderful actor, by the way. Babysitting Brahms, and
she
plays along. Yeah, she plays along with the doll being a boy.
Like it has to have a good night kiss. You can't play loud music. You can't
leave
leave
it
him
alone.
You have to feed him at this time. You have to tuck him in. You have to give him his studies. And this is to a doll. And if
she does it eventually.
She follows the rules, and the mom made it explicit that if you break the rules, you will face the consequences.
But eventually she does start breaking the rules. She leaves them alone. She has guests in the house, and eventually things start to happen, unexpected things that wouldn't happen from a doll.
Yeah, she got locked in the attic. She lost her pink dress, so she couldn't go out with the grocery man. Yeah. And they find out that she actually believes that the doll is possessed.
Yeah,
by
the doll
Brahms' spirit.
starts moving.
The doll starts moving. Yeah, and it turns out in the end of the movie, when Brahms' doll breaks into a million pieces from the abusive boyfriend that shows up.
He finally decides to shatter it to get rid of all the spookiness. He doesn't believe in it. He just thinks something's
that it's
wrong.
Just a dumb doll and that she's going crazy. And she ends up hearing something on the wall. And it turns out that Brahms didn't die in the fire at 8 years old. He was living in the walls, and the parents hid him in the wall so he wouldn't go to jail. And he was this 28-year-old man living in the wall that was in love with Greta. And he comes out of the wall and ends up beating and killing up the abusive husband. Mm-hmm. And then he goes after the grocery man, and Greta ends up telling him, like, no, it's time for bed. Like, he was following his routine.
Followed the routine perfectly, and as she was putting him to bed, she kind of had a screwdriver just in case.
Yeah, and she asked him for a kiss. Well, he
didn't want a kiss. He wanted a make-out session.
But a kiss goodnight, and she gave him a kiss goodnight, and then stabbed him with the screwdriver. Ended up escaping.
He got very angry and threw her against the wall.
Yes.
But she did fight back and won. So with these two movies, we see a lot. We see the play on fear. We see good camera quality. I mean, it's hard to make an object that doesn't move.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
They do it pretty well in both scenes. Movies, not scenes.
You can definitely see the connection between the movies by how making the dolls really realistic, so it makes it more like a uncanny, creepy feeling of seeing, like, oh, that's weird.
And having one primary person interacting with the doll.
Yeah, and we also see that in The Boy, it was just in the house. Dead
silence. It was all over. They were in the house. They were in a hotel. It was back to the play. It was to the old man's house. It was to the dad's house. They were very interactive with it. They didn't just leave it in one area, which I think adds a lot of dynamic to the film. And
they can actually do a lot of things with that. They can have a lot of suspense, have a lot of things. With The Boy, you didn't really get that much suspense because it was just one house. You couldn't have the environmental factors and the outside factors coming in. It was just the house. You can only do so much with just being in a house.
Personally, if I was her, I would have left the house. I would have left the dog. I would have been
out. She was in the middle of and also just being in the middle of nowhere adds the creepy feeling, like that she didn't have cell service. She didn't, like, the phones barely worked. She had to have her groceries delivered to her. She was in the middle of the woods, and that adds an irrational fear right there, being in the woods.
Being alone.
Millions of movies have played on that, like Cabin in the Woods. They've played on scary movies being in the woods because no one ever knows what's going on in the woods, like behind us. Another movie that it's been built off of is Chucky, because Chucky is the all-time doll movie. You have Child's Play 2. You have
Bride of Chucky,
Spawn of Chucky. Is it Spawn of Chucky?
Lots of Chuckies. Yeah. There's a baby Chucky that comes alive and doesn't want to kill but kills anyways.
Yeah.
The doll.
Everyone has, or like in clown movies and everything, like It. Everyone has irrational fears towards dolls, and these two movies really played on it and used that as the emotional, like, to get people emotionally involved in the movie.
Definitely, yeah.
Especially with how they looked similar to the son, so they're like, oh, maybe it is the son's spirit in there, and maybe that it's actually nice for the parents to keep the doll because the spirit's in there.
Yeah,
but
she probably had an emotional connection. I mean, in the first movie, Dead Silence, we see an emotional connection with the husband and the wife, and which is why he goes through all the work to try to figure out who killed him and mess with the doll in the first place.
The other emotional factor is that she was actually pregnant, so that made us actually really mad. We really wanted to find out what happened to her because they killed off a pregnant wife.
Yeah, and you build a connection with the boy because it's the only girl in the scene, really, other than the grocery man and the abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, and they also did the emotional factor of the grocery man and Greta getting emotionally involved. Yeah, so you don't want them both to die because you want them to work out and you want them to be together. So you really are fighting for both of them to survive throughout the movie.
Definitely.
So that pulls people in. Both of these movies really did a really good job of pulling in the multiple different audiences because they really knew how to branch out and find and really gather different audiences. So people that are scared of dolls, people that just like doll movies, or people that like the emotional connection. They did a really good job of bringing all those audiences in together and putting on a pretty good movie.
I believe so too. So we think that you guys should go watch these. Tell us what you think about them in the comments and
let us know.
And we'll be back with a new movie.
Yeah, go watch them definitely, and go do something scary.
Yeah, have a spooky night.